Jim, you were just talking about how the analysts are a little jumpy on these buy ratings.
Didn't want that. The two things I wanted to see were negativity, market come down, retest that low, and analysts throwing in the towel as opposed to saying it's time to buy. Because when they have their list ready of companies that sell at 30, 40, 50 times sales, well, that's just once again an invitation to take your money and put it in the fireplace. We don't want that. What we really want are rock solid companies that make things, make money, and have typically dividends or buybacks. David, the stuff that's going down that's really leading us down today remained technology stocks that we can't get a handle on. But today, no one seems to like the companies that report. I disagree with that. I think the companies that report are really showing the truth, which is that there's supply chain issues. And get your arms around it. If everybody has supply chain issues, then you know what, David, there's supply chain issues.
Well, GE certainly has some supply chain issues. They noted they did come in. And again, we're going to talk to Larry Culp a half hour or so from now. So we'll get a lot more from that company. But, organic revenue was down, 2%, I think.
Right.
Some had been looking for flats. One reason why the stock may be off a few percentage points. And the fourth quarter as well. Power aviation revenue below estimates, at least from some analysts. Margin shortfalls in healthcare and renewables. And they're also citing inflation in their own guidance for the coming year.
Well, what I like about GE is, as the same thing I like about J&J, the companies that you see are not the companies that you're going to get. And we're going to speak into Greg Hayes later from Raytheon. When Greg split up United Technologies, the free company, he created $40 billion. So, I mean, yeah, you may say, well, this quarter of GE is not that good. But then think about next year. Maybe it's going to be Raytheon. Maybe it's going to be what Greg Hayes did. And that you had to buy it when it looked ugliest. And that's today, Carl. It looks ugly.
Yeah. Raytheon guides below. Amex guides below. J&J revenue miss. I mean, there's a school of thought that says, why come in with great guidance when the tape is clearly not going to reward you?
Exactly. Why should American Express, which reported a monster quarter, Steve Squeri, 60% of those new cards were millennials. They're growing. They're growing at say 20%. Why come out and say, look, this can continue forever? J&J. I happen to like J&J very much. Now they have an orthopedic division, which frankly you don't go to the hospital if you have elective. They have a consumer business that looked to be not as good as Procter, but then you talk to them about raw costs, and you find out that Neutrogena couldn't make all the product they need. They certainly seem to have a better group of products than what Glaxo's trying to offload. And pharma's fabulous. But people have decided that J&J is not good. J&J is probably up at the end of the day. This is a good company.
So that guidance calculus, is that why IBM refused to discuss EPS?
Well, IBM was difficult because while they said it was the best growth quarter in since 2011, and people didn't like the cash flow on the quarter, the cash flow projections. A lot of people felt the margins weren't that good. But David, I've got to tell you, Arvind Krishna has a better company than he did a year ago. Now, does that mean that? Yeah, I do think that.
That doesn't mean it's not without its significant challenges, though, does it?
Well, it does have significant challenges, but that's why it's at 130, not 180. And I guess what I'm saying, and this is kind of a step back for a moment, it's not like you're getting these companies at the high and they're disappointing.
No.
You're getting them really awful.
What's the plan at IBM? I've always it's funny because we see activism so often, and it's always struck me that IBM never attracted an activist. And the reason why is not because there wasn't potentially frustration, but because nobody had a plan for how to actually figure out a way to create value, at least from an activist perspective.
Well, it's true. Look, so you read in the paper that Watson's been closed. Well, actually, no, just the healthcare part, which had a lot of HIPAA issues. The artificial intelligence.
All right, but they made a big deal of Watson and healthcare for a long time.
So that's the problem.
A long time.
I
remember getting presentations, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember it was members in Astor Place, and it's like, wow, this is exciting. And then you look into the HIP aspects, so you can't compile data, and people don't want you. But, David, here's a good example. IBM, target lower by UBS, who goes 124 to 118. I don't think it's going to 118. I don't think that person's going to be able to be requited in that. Jim Suva, whose work I like very much at Citi, he says, look, it's too early to predict IBM is turning the corner. I get that. IBM has broken a lot of hearts, David.
Yes, it has.
And no one wants to see their heart broken again. At the same time, they did buy Red Hat. Red Hat's growing very well. And, Carl, when you look at IBM, it, to me, is another one of those companies where you just say, well, you get a good dividend, you're paid to wait, so why abandon it? At one point, it was up to 137. Well, that was wrong because people hadn't listened to the call. But, again, are you coming in at 200? No, you're coming in at 130. So many of the companies I like. I mean, I'm still working on 3M, but 3M was at 200. Now it's at 172 this morning, like with a 3.5% yield. You're not buying it at the high. Now, when you look at a lot of these software companies that are down, other than Snowflake, which company I like very much, I mean, you're buying a lot of these companies. It's like, well, I don't know, were they ever worth what they were selling for? I think 3M, Mike Roman, maybe it's a turn. Maybe it's a turn.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.